Welcome to Forever Sports Fan Forum on a oh no wait, it's not Thursday, it's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And
Little.
secondly, I I'm the better version of Stevie P. Hey, here we are.
Oh, wow. Imagine
Stevie
that.
P 2.0.
Just imagine that.
Imagine
I
that,
mean,
yeah. Yeah, guys. So as you can tell, we are a little bit earlier this week. I think we're getting ready for the Springbok game. We've got the team announcement, so we've got lots of books to talk about. But also Stevie and his brother are off to France, lucky bums. So they're getting all ready for that. So yeah, Stevie mentioned that he had something with his teeth, but boys, I think that was a little bit of a teeth whitening dental job there to get himself all ready for
yeah.
France. Eh?
Good for the
Yeah.
camera.
Man's
But
looking
yeah,
for some
obviously.
attention down there.
Yeah, but obviously, guys, first week of the World Cup done, so we got loads to get through. Of course, I mean, some interesting topics to talk about, which we'll get to. But I think not maybe one or two shockers to some people, but generally, I think a lot of form went the right way. But I think, yeah, I can't wait to get into it with you guys, and I think we'll start off with the weekend with the first games. Obviously, the opener. I don't know if it was probably a little bit of a damp squid after everything because, yeah, it ended up being a massive France victory there in the end, or quite a comfortable France victory after a very nice New Zealand start. I must admit, I kind of still was. I predicted New Zealand possibly winning, so I thought, there we go. There's the New Zealand arrived, and see you later, Frenchies. But no, the Frenchies are just really, really good. So, Riza, I'll start off with you, man. How did you feel the game go? How do you think the battles of the tens went specifically? How did you see it
Oh
going?
yeah, no, cool. I see this is targeted abuse here. And yeah, no, everyone was probably wondering why I took such a break from the fan forum. Well, now you know, everyone. It's Chris and his abuse there all the way from England. But
Well,
Just
it's
just
your first
stop
um,
having
first time
shite
back in a few
opinions, man.
months, so we have to ease you into it, So
yeah, look, if you want to talk about the Battle of the Tens, I don't actually think that there was much of a battle. To be very honest, I thought that. Richie and Jalibu, I think both of them actually had some decently quiet games for their levels. I think Jalibu had a couple maybe a couple moments that were really exceptional, but yeah, it was a weird one. I don't think it was really a game for the tens. I think that the class was shown elsewhere on the field. So I don't know if that answers your question. It may not be the one you were looking for. But if you want me to say that Richie Mo'unga is terrible, I will not be saying that. But yeah, no, it was okay. I would rate Richie's performance probably a 5, 6 out of 10, and Jalibu maybe a 7.
yeah, but how did you? I mean, obviously, how did the game pan out for you? I mean, what were you also undercoverly thinking New Zealand were going to cause an upset there, or did the form lines just show that there was no ways that France were losing there?
Sure. I must say, I actually think that New Zealand probably didn't do themselves many favors there. I think that especially in that first half, they probably threw away a couple of chances and a couple of handling errors, and it was just all around kind of messy. And I think that if they had got their game plan together and just got a couple of hands together and stayed a bit more patient in that first half, in particular, I think that we might have seen a different result. But the French, to their credit, managed to hold them off for that first half and capitalized on the mistakes that New Zealand were making and came out firing in the second half with the ability that we all know that they have. So yeah, if you want my honest opinion, I think that yeah, France have done well to get that win, but I do think that New Zealand are much better than that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think there's a lot more that should come from New Zealand. It would be very, very scary to still write them off. Where's I'll go to you? How do you feel the game went? What did you feel there was an impact with the 212s? It looked like Fofana had the better of the centers there. How did you feel the game went? Maybe not specific in the centers there, but how did it pan out there for you?
Yeah, I think everyone was a bit shocked potentially by that early New Zealand try. Everyone thought, okay, here we go, this is it. The All Blacks have turned up. They got their spanking from the Springboks a couple of weeks before, and now they're ready to go. But I think the French did immaculate game management and planning. So they knew that they weren't going to come up and meet the All Blacks up front from the go. They weren't going to try and match the energy. They were just going to keep in there with them, keep in there with them, keep in with them, and then eventually, when things opened up, then really open the floodgates. So I think that was really interesting to see how the French were able to manage the game from that perspective. Barring that sort of first try by the All Blacks, though, it just never really looked like they were that threatening. It didn't feel like an All Black team of old. However, bloody Talea on the wing there is just an absolute machine and unstoppable, or just like is very Colby-esque, but like, you know, in the fact that he just doesn't go down. So I think, you know, he can do some damage this World Cup. We'll have to keep our eyes out for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of those players that just looks so kind of maybe unorthodox in a way, because I was also watching him and it took him. He breaks almost every first tackle, almost, and he's only like a slight type of guy. You just don't expect it. It's like he's got like the superhuman kind of ability or strength, and he gets.
I may get shouted at. I may get shouted at for comparison, but when I look at him, I almost see like a Makazole Mapimpi kind of vibe, maybe a few years back, but.
Yeah, and I think these unorthodox wings, Peter Rousseau could have been one as well. You kind of lanky and you kind of some of these odd wings. They've got these different running styles. Maybe JJ Engelbrecht.
What about Kobus Reinach on the wing? He's like, I mean,
he's the best.
Chris?
Well, he's the best wing that we've ever produced. So, I mean, that's that. Or no, that's him. No, it's him. Yeah. But Rudes, how you doing, mate? Yeah, I know. We had a comment to ask. You know, have the All Blacks lost their aura? Well, I'll leave that up to you, Rudes. What do you think? Have the All Blacks lost their aura? Or where do you think they're going? How do you think the game went, and where do you think they're going in this World Cup?
Yeah, it's lovely to be on again, man. So for me, I saw a quote in the week that said the head coach of the All Blacks, Ian Foster, is consistent at being inconsistent. And I think that for me sums up the late generation of the All Blacks. I know we await Scott Robertson, the next All Black coach. He might obviously add some new dynamics. But for me, in this generation, I won't say I'm pleased, because it's always that sort of South Africa-New Zealand rivalry that you want to see that's intense. But if we judge on the last game, I know it was only a warm-up game, but the All Blacks were absolutely nowhere. And I think to a degree, I want to say there's certain people in the New Zealand media, I guess, who sort of have this entitled denial for the moment. So every team goes through a dip. South Africa has been through many. And I think this is just the All Blacks' time to lap that up at the bottom of the barrel, so to say. Being in the bottom of the pecking order in as far as the top 4 teams to win the World Cup, that'd be fourth to be mentioned right now.
Yeah, man, Rudes, I agree. I think, you know, New Zealand, they're in a downward trend, right? I think it is players. I mean, I speak to people, our friends, like, you look at that All Black team, let's be honest, guys, it doesn't seem it's not as imposing as these All Black teams of old, where you're just like, how on earth are we going to beat these guys? I think we look at these teams, we think we have a chance. And I'm going to throw it, I think Fozzie, the culture, leadership is so important in sport. And I think Fozzie, I don't like to criticize people's crap because we don't really know, but, you know, I think the culture there is wrong. I don't think they got that old proper New Zealand culture going there. I think Robinson will turn that around, but do they have the cattle to turn it around with the players? That'll be something else to see. But the World Cup's still going. They're still in it. Who knows where they end up going? I mean, I think, let's move on to some other games of the weekend. We'll focus on the big ones. I think let's move maybe to old England, Argentina. Very, very, very interesting game. I'm sorry to the Argentina fanboys. Yes, Reza, put your head back there. And I think a lot of the panel were wearing their Argentina tops.
Yeah.
I think someone called England on the panel last week. I think that was me. But look, to be honest, guys, no one expected. No one expected. I mean, England did play better, but Argentina allowed them as well to absolutely play well. So, Reza, how did you see that game? What did you make of that one?
Oh, man. It was probably one of the most frustrating games of rugby I've watched in a very long time. And I don't usually get too invested in neutral games, so to speak. But, you know, the RGs hold a very special place in my heart, you know, ever since they had kind of joined in with Sansa. And I really thought this was their time. I must be honest. I thought that, you know, of all the picks that I made this weekend, barring maybe the Fiji pick, I was quite confident in this one. And I must give all my credit to George Ford. He took total control of that game in trying circumstances for England, with obviously the red card down. You know, and it's, geez, what an effort by him to just game manage that and control it for his team. And I think the rest of the team kind of fed off that energy. You could see after that first drop kick went down, I think they were also in shock. They were like, okay, you know what, we can actually do this. There's a bit of self-belief there. So yeah, for me, all the credit to George Ford. I'm horribly shocked at the performance that the RG's put together. You know, they can moan as much as they want about some refereeing decisions or whatever the case is, but they know what to blame but themselves. They were impatient and very similar to the New Zealand team. A lot of handling errors. And they just, yeah, they didn't have the temperament to
Good
get
temperament,
themselves into a position to take control of that game.
Yeah, I heard. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm believing that the national anthems are getting totally butchered at the World Cup. And someone mentioned that Argentina's was also completely butchered. And they're a team, that Latin temperament we talk about, that they get all worked up in the anthem and they gets them really going. And apparently they're looking around at each other like, what's going on? And it could have put them off, you know, with that temperament we talk about. I'm not saying it did. They're professional sportsmen. It shouldn't. But someone noticed that they looked a little bit razzled, that they, you know, they didn't get to pump out how they would normally do it. I'm not making an excuse for them, but yeah, it was a very odd game. And George Ford, those skills of kicking those goals, people saying, was also, they were bloody good, good drop goals. Is Argentina still your second team? What's going on? What did you make of it?
I don't know when they were second team. Did I say that? Is that what I said?
I'm wrong, Wes. But yeah, how did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was the only Super Rugby pick I got wrong, which makes it hurt even more. So
okay, all right, no need to show off,
yeah. I was just saying, you know, join the Forever Sports Super Rugby picks there. Links in the description. But no, it was tough, eh? I think, like Reza, disappointed is probably correct, and not like in a parental disappointed way, but in a like this was a moment for them to show the growth that they've had, and we just then resorted rather back to Argentina of old, you know, ill-disciplined, scrappy rugby, no real phase play. It was tough to watch, and I think in a way, like it was. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I was glad to see England playing better, as much as the whole world seems to not like England, for very good reasons sometimes. I think it was encouraging for the state of rugby, and just actually for those oaks as individuals, because they get absolutely roasted by their media, and I think it's a very toxic place to be an English sportsman. So I was happy that there might be some relief for them this week, and maybe even some praise, God forbid. But yeah, in terms of an Argentina performance, was very disappointed.
Yeah, well, that's the thing as well. Remember, I mean, even England, there wasn't so much on attack, was there? I saw some ridiculous stat that like they kicked 90% of their possession. It was just a very odd game of rugby. I don't know how much to really take on it. We'll get into some predictions later. I've got one that I will give for the England-Japan, so we'll take it there. But Rudes, what did you read of that? A lot of people would put in RGs to make it to the semis, great chance. Would they sneak into a final? What do you think happened there on the weekend, and where do you think they're going?
I think that was a defining game for Argentina. Obviously, they were backing themselves to be favourites against England, judging from the warm-ups. But then again, we saw that the warm-ups are just warm-ups. And I think Argentina, for the sake of it, also sometimes tend to be the French of old. Lately, I know they had a time where they beat the All Blacks. They beat the Springboks. But over the last sort of while, I don't think they have that same sort of rhythm that they used to. So then again, you spoke earlier about the passion. I think a lot of that sort of, when it goes missing in the game, they sort of fall apart. And then the leadership for me wasn't really evident. And then obviously the drop goals, you mentioned obviously earlier on, we were chatting on our WhatsApp group about Stephen Larkham's drop goals. Those sort of things you don't sort of plan. But I think England did. Argentina just didn't see England coming with that sort of plan, and they had no answer.
Yeah, no, it was quite surreal to watch. But yeah, I anticipate RGs will come back hard, come back good next game. I think we can write that one off. But then we possibly said that about New Zealand coming into the French game, and they showed the same form basically that they gave against us, right?
I mean, Chris, just to mention as well. I mean, I see Safri Kiwi in the comments there, getting some really good comments down there. But the one he mentions is Argentina also only had one warm-up game in Spain. And I mean, that's not preparation, right? I mean, all the big nations have had some pretty extensive tests. I mean, we had our New Zealand game and the whole rugby championship basically as a warm-up to World Cup. And yeah, it's quite disappointing for Argentina that they weren't able to secure themselves the fixtures that they maybe needed to get them over the line.
I think that is a biggie, and I think the story even plays back to speaking about the Fijians, the Fajua, and the prep that they've had in the Super Rugby, and then the Jaguars for Argentina. When the players have that hard and weekend, you build that standard. Your body, your mind is that I fully believe that as a professional sportsman, right? Yeah. And if you start getting less and less, that's taught to win. And you come to the big time, unfortunately, you're caught cold sometimes, and that looks like what's happened.
Last thing, Chris, if we can just, and I'm sure we'll talk about it because this was a big theme of this weekend, but obviously Tom Curry going off, and I think we can chat about that after we've spoken about the other ones there. But Tom Curry's red card, and it is a concerning issue for England because they do seem to play better when they are a man down, which
they're so used to it. So.
Yeah, well, I know, but it's so weird. It just seems to kick them into this different gear. So, but you don't want to become reliant on that all of a sudden you actually need a card to play well. It does seem to kind of rally them a bit, which was, so that's my thing. Well, we can talk about Tom Curry's decision and as well as then, the other two head contacts, the Chilean captain Sigrin and then obviously Jesse Kriel, but we'll chat about that a bit later.
Yeah, sure. We'll just finish up these weekend games. Safriki, thank you for everyone who's online and watching us today. Safri Kiwi. Well, looks like they've got a multinational or multi-support. Yeah, and
Safri Kiwi's comments.
Yeah,
and there's better be a long show because we need like an hour to talk about the Bok team. You're in for a treat, my friend.
Yeah, and also that Talia is also a Safri. Maybe this is Mark Talia. Is this you, Mark Talia? Because he says Talia is half Safri and half New Zealand as well. So maybe Talia's trolling us, because he also says New Zealand can still win it. To be honest, it's definitely Mark Talia giving us a bit of a troll. But yeah, you're right there. You can't write off.
That's my boy.
You can't. I mean. Forms is going to say that New Zealand aren't in this World Cup. They were still favourites pre-opener, right? I think maybe France just came in, but it really has opened it up quite a lot. And also, Mario, thanks for your comments. All, she says Razor isn't going to make a difference. I disagree there. I think Razor is going to make a difference. I think we're going to see a better All Black side, a top 3 international side again, because they do have the players, and when they have it's just strange in New Zealand. They always used to say their third team could basically beat everyone, right? But now they really need their top players. But just quickly before we move on to the books and controversies of the weekend, any other games? I think Wales-Fiji is worth touching on, right? I think that was probably the game of the weekend. I don't know what you guys want to have a quick run around, but yeah, I again called Wales. I just think Wales, when they're up, I think that Munce was too big of a loss for Fiji. And I also think Wales, I know Fiji came back, but let's be honest, Wales were probably checking out already when they know they shouldn't have. But I don't know, what's your guys' thoughts? Did you think Fiji should have deserved to hold on that ball at the end there, Reza, and get over and break Wales' hearts and get everyone excited?
I think that the fact that they had to be in their position in the first place, where there's a desperate play right at the end, speaks a lot about the fact that and to be very honest, I think they're a better team, and I think that they, going on the potential that they've been showing, they probably should never have been in that position in the first place. I mean, that team is pretty poor. That Wales team, it is poor, and there's no other way about it. And as much as Fiji perhaps don't have the same level of pedigree behind them, it's quite, I think that they probably, like, the point I'm getting to is that they put themselves in that position at the end, Fiji, and so unfortunately they can't complain that the rub of the green didn't quite go their way. I hope to see better out of them though, but it's encouraging that they at least showed the fight right to the end.
Yeah, no, totally. I'll get your thoughts as well. See, Barry, for you, do you think Fiji can beat Oz. We're going to do some predictions later in the show, so we'll do some round robins of what we think. But Wes, while you speak, I'm going to put my camera off and put some lights on because this professional presenter here just needs to get out of this dark room. So yeah, give us your thoughts on Wales and Fiji, and I'll be right back.
No, see you in a bit, Chris. Yeah, I think for me, guys, so I had the privilege of being able to sort of do the watch along for that game, and so that was a lot of fun. I mean, that was the best watch along I've had because it was just action packed the whole game through. There was never a quiet moment, and I hear what you're saying, Rees, but I think we don't like to talk about the officials and the refs, but I think there was maybe this comes in the controversy later on, but if you look at how many warnings Wales got down in their 22, on the line, cynical infringements, like if you're offside, slowing down the ball on a 5 meter, that's a cynical infringement. It's the same thing as collapsing a maul, so it's very similar to that. And then the Fijians go down and they commit one infringement and they get a yellow card. And this was not the only case. It was just the most blatant, of time where we saw it. So I
didn't have the privilege of watching as much of the game as you did. Do you think that it's more? I mean, did they have despite the decisions that went against them? Do you think that they should have closed it out? I guess that's more where I was heading with it.
Yeah, I think for Fiji to be able to come back into that position, given the numerous calls made against them, or calls that didn't go their way. I think is really impressive, and speaks more about the Fijian like temperament. I'm going to use that word a lot this week. Where the Fiji of old might have just gotten a bit emotional and dropped their heads and got out the game and reverted to the old. But we saw this, what I've been talking about, this more consistent Fiji where they're making the right decision more often than not. And for me, that's what makes a good team and even a great team, is how often can you make the correct decision? You can't make the correct decision every time. The teams will make the wrong decision. Players will make the wrong decision. You're going to need a moment. But the Fiji now we see are making the smart high rugby IQ decisions, which I think is really impressive. And so I still see them with a chance in this to qualify.
Yeah, and Rudes, I don't know what you feel as well. Are you also, there was high optimism with Fiji, right? And they ended up being like giving the Wales a good game. How do you feel went from? Do you think they obviously were outdone, but do you think they possibly should have won? And again, how do you see them rolling out the rest? Do you think I know we will do predictions, but how do you see them rolling out against Australia?
Yeah, I agree with Wes when he says Fiji have got obviously a new structure to them. They're not only the flair, they've got the brains. I just think it's an uphill battle now against Australia. So they were looking to set a platform and at least challenge for second spot in the group. I think overcoming Eddie Jones might be a step too far. I don't think there's reason we can't believe and hope, but I think we're going to be living on a hope with that one. The Wales game was there for the taking, and I think in the last moment it was just the rub of the ball, the moisture, and just unlucky for Fiji there. The question would remain, though, if they did score their try, would they have kicked the kick over? So it wasn't a guarantee, it was an opportunity, but I think the Australia game is just a slight push too far, although I'd love to see some more exciting rugby from Fiji.
Yeah, but Fiji are fun to watch, aren't they? And now they have improved some of the kind of basics, you want to call it, discipline and structures of the game. They are even more interesting to watch. I'm not going to touch on any other games. We'll go to the books next. But any other games besides the books you guys have any comments on? You want to say anything?
Just very
briefly,
how Ireland ran, or yeah. No.
Go ahead, Wes. Yeah, all yours.
Shot proof. No, I was just going to compliment the Chileans on having what I thought was a great start to their Rugby World Cup, or their debut. So I mean, they did get put down quite heavily towards the end there. However, they came out and just, again, the level of rugby they demonstrated and played. I mean, to be on such a big stage in their first game, I thought it was it was fantastic to see the Chileans coming out and having another new side in a Rugby World Cup. So yeah, my hat's off to them.
Yeah, and also for the minnows bet. Sorry, Ariza.
I think my only other game of note was obviously the Ireland game. I think great to see Johnny Sexton back. I don't think anyone needs to read too much about it. He obviously had quite a performance there, but it is quite a poor Romania side. But I do wonder. I suppose we'll get into when we do our predictions whether having the softer game first is a benefit or a hindrance. We've gotten over one of our big ones first in Scotland, which we'll get into in a second. I feel that stands us in better stead going into the rest of our group, that we've overcome one of our challenges already. For them, their tournament hasn't really started yet.
Yeah. I was just going to say, in terms of the minnows, it was quite exciting. And if you were a betting man and actually were brave enough to bet it, the Chileans scoring first and the Romanians scoring first, if you put that in a double, we could have all packed up or quit and join Wednesday in Botswana and our own safari lodge. But yeah, it was quite exciting to see the guys, have a good start off that well, but obviously it is, let's face it, men versus boys at the end of the day. I did enjoy Chile's endeavor. I did. They gave Japan a hard game. They had to really fight their way into that game, didn't they? All right, guys, I'm going to quickly do the betting segment brought by BOYLESPORTS. Yourself, myself, truly. You've been ticking along nicely on the show. I'll just bring in the slide as we usually do. So yeah, again, we had another nice week last week. 2 winners that I gave out last week. We had the France versus New Zealand second half higher scoring. That ended up winning kind of comfortably-ish, but yeah, it won, so it was good. Take it home. And Georgia's last try at the end, they also brought in this bet. But a win's a win, and we move on. We move forward. Yeah. And we on to 17 wins, 10 losses on the win-loss record. We edging up to 20 units on this since we started the segment, and where we had to operate in a lovely 54% return on investment. Take that any day. You're doing well. Let's say if you're 20%, you're doing really well. So take that. Because we're early in the week, I wanted to see more teams, and the early games are too much of a mismatch and too many big caps going on there for me to get too much involved yet at the moment. But yeah, there it is. I'm saying that the cap is 22.5 for Japan against England. I just think England almost could be a false positive, that Argentina game. I think Japan should give this England team a decent run. I'll be surprised if England do run away from Japan. So I would have probably capped this around 15. So we'll give out 1 punt. We'll add this to the record. We'll do Japan plus 22.5. I think that's a couple points too much. So we'll see how we do with that again next week. So now we'll move on to the box. I think before we get to next week in the team, let's go through the game. Let's talk about South Africa versus Scotland, right? I mean, was it 15 points at the end? Victory, a couple points higher than what the bookies were thinking. Restricting Scotland to 3. Yeah, sure, great defense, but I think Scotland also didn't do themselves any favors at times as well. So, is it a dominant book performance that everyone is happy with, or do we think that there are still some issue there? Scotland didn't arrive, and there's possibly still some weaknesses, if you want to call it, that possibly teams could expose. Or are we happy? Riza, how are you feeling? Where do you think that how do you think that went, and where does that leave us?
So I was fortunate enough to obviously be in our live fan park, and it was. I interviewed a couple of people, and obviously they were quite festive and enjoying themselves. But so the enthusiasm and the confidence for the Boks was quite high, and I couldn't help but think to myself while I was doing those interviews that I'm not entirely sure that I'm actually happy with the way that they closed out that game. I was hoping that we would come away with the bonus point there. I think we had just over 22, 23 minutes or something like that in which to get that third try. And it was maybe slightly concerning, if I had to really be nitpicky about the performance, that they weren't able to create really many chances in that last quarter to kind of do that. I was hoping that they'd push a bit harder for it. From a defensive point of view, an incredible performance, and it's the kind of thing that we've come to expect from the Boks in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, pre-2019. So it's very solid. I think we take it. We don't moan too much. I hope that bonus point doesn't come back to haunt us. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm impressed with it though. I liked the the composure shown. I think perhaps if I had to pick apart an area of concern for me was maybe in the centres. Dielendi and Kriel didn't quite ever look like they were threatening much, in my opinion. And I think that's probably one of the areas of concern.
Yeah, I could possibly agree. Rudes, I'm going to come into your beloved books. I think you're predicting a 52, 60 point win. I'm only kidding. I know you're expecting or hoping a nice big book win there. I thought it would be closer, so it was probably about right. But I mean, we can't ever really be disappointed. We shut the international team down to 3 points. But how do you feel, Rudes? How do you feel the game went?
So for me, obviously, the first half was a very tight affair. I think that the Springboks were still getting into gear. I think once those traffic lights start working in the second half, the guys started to also get their peripheral vision going. But no, I think for the sake of individual players, there were some standouts. Collectively, I think we still got to put it all together. It will be interesting to see post-Romania. Obviously, we're going to touch on that, but what sort of team they want to put together for the Ireland game, because there were some concerns in areas. I think our defence is solid. I think Ireland's going to battle with that, any team for that matter. And I think we just overpowered Scotland in that game in the second half. So our bomb squad is still relevant. I know Reza mentioned now the centres were a problem. I want to agree with him and also say that I'm not sure if it was an instruction to get the ball to Delende and he go route one again. But I think that route one is 2019, and we've moved on from there. So I'd possibly like to see a switch in the centres. And then the last cause for concern, I know I've mentioned it before. I've forgiven him. He's an amazing player, and we need him at fly-off. But I think the indication with Faf de Klerk being on the bench for this Romania game might be an indication that they want to take the kicking duties away from Mani Lebok for the Ireland game so that he can focus on doing what he does absolutely best and give those duties to Faf de Klerk. That's my opinion. But great win. I think it puts us in a good place, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Sorry, Chrissy. I just want to just quickly. I think that I'm getting hacked in the comments here. But but I just want to be very clear. I am very much saying that my problem with the centres at the moment is that as a combination, they're not creating a lot of opportunities. Dielendi will always go forward. Everyone knows that. But whether that really moves and creates opportunities for the players outside him all the time is not always the case. And so, if he's creating that space and there's a game plan post those crash balls, sure, no problem. But I do agree with everyone. On defense, they were fantastic, which is exactly what we've come to expect. But I think that you go Moody, you go Esterhuizen, I think they've been creating a lot more opportunities than the Dielendi Kriel combo.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. So if you had to pick a team, say we play in Ireland next week, Rudes and Reza, who's your centre combination then? Rudes?
Ireland.
Or is it?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Can we leave that one to Wes?
Wes, Rudes, do you want to you did mention the centre combination. Would you change them? And if you did, who would you? Would you bring in Esterhuizen? If Moody was available, would you bring in Moody?
Yeah, I like the Esterhuizen because I think he's got that ability with his physical. He's got that ability with his physical prowess to go forward, but also he's got the soft hands. So that's going to allow the opportunities for Kane and Moody outside and Kurtley Orense. So possibly Esterhuizen at 12 at least.
All right, and Camp Kriel still at 13, yeah. All right, Wes, on to you, my man. How do you feel it went? Obviously, guys have made their comments. How did that go for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was proper nervous at the end of the first half. Was it, I think 6-3 we went in, and I think we came out hard in that first 20 minutes, and we were looking good. And I think we looked like we had showed up to play, and we were playing some good rugby, and we were attacking with pace. And Scotland were there matching us, bit for bit, and we just couldn't quite crack through. And then our scrum started to struggle. I mean, I had to pinch myself and check what reality I was in, and fucking Doctor Strange in the multiverse, whatever was
Yeah,
going on. I had
that
to
was
like
so
work out
weird.
where I was because it was just so odd. And so, yeah, I went into the half not feeling great, still obviously, I think backing the boys, believing we could win, but I was, a bit concerned. And then second half came in and again, we came out with that intensity. And I think it was a combination of that, our fitness potentially, as well as then the bomb squad, as Rudy mentioned. And I mean, Ox, Umganambi came on and Trevor. So, and they just said, right, we got this. And the Scots couldn't hang with those three, which is interesting because, they I think were the starting front row not so long ago. I know there's been injuries and a bit of this and that, but they were the choice front row. So I wonder if we might see a shift there, or because they were so effective off the bench, do they remain part of the bomb squad and then to have that effect? And once we started getting, sorry, Chris, which is the last thing, once we started getting our forward momentum and our scrums, and we started winning that, then things opened up for us. And I'll touch on the center stuff. Lastly, I do think that if we played Ireland, I probably would choose Damien and Jesse. I think that despite them not creating opportunities or potentially being as go forward as an Estays and Moody combination, we still managed to beat a good team, the 5th ranked team in the world by 15 points. And so we can create opportunities elsewhere. Obviously, ideal if we use the centers to make better ground, but I think given their defensive structure and the fact that we can still exploit teams elsewhere, I'd probably back those two. It'll be very interesting to see this weekend.
Yeah, well, guys, all I mean about the bomb squad, right? I mean, it's all about the last 20 minutes, and it has been for the Boks for a long time, but the last 20 minutes was one of the worst 20 minutes of international rugby I've seen in a long time. But both sides, there were mistakes, giving away penalties, mistakes all across the park. I thought we got those 2 tries. We were going to kick on. I thought we were going to kick on and score another 2 tries, and we didn't do it. The bomb squad didn't. I mean, we regained control of the forwards. That was what we had to do, number one for sure. But we didn't. We didn't run it. We didn't kind of. I thought we would take it away from them, and I don't know if you guys feel is that something to worry about? Again, was it one test, one next? That test done in the bag, and we move forward, and the bomb squad does its job again next time out. Reza, what do you think?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, people forget that we are pundits. We are there to pick apart the good and the bad. And while we are saying that it would have been, and I mean, I fully agree with you, it would have been absolutely great to see them kick on. We also understand the rigors of professional rugby, and it's not a bad Scotland team. And I'm sure that they will, if Rassie and Jacques are sitting there in the dugout having a cup and said, "Hey guys, fantastic game." That was like a little bit concerned about this because they always have something to work on, and that's all we're saying is that if you've got to pick something that they probably should have done better, is maybe just close the game out completely. And there was a target, a tangible milestone in that bonus point that was very much within their reach that they weren't able to get. So if they were looking at something to improve on, I think that would be the thing for them.
That was I thought that the first half would have bothered us a lot, and we would have come out with a massive bean up on it and a kind of a point to prove. Even though we were we didn't look like losing. That's really, okay. We'll talk about the card. Would have a Creel red card affected the game? I don't know. We can talk about that later. But I was a little bit disappointed. I would have liked to have seen us squeeze the life out of Scotland and at least get another try, But both teams are making the mistakes, and the turnovers were coming, but yeah, that's how it was. But let's move on to the weekend, and let's actually start. The book squad was announced today. Very,
Chris,
very
I just
interesting.
can I add something there?
Yeah, sure, go from it, man. Yeah.
I think on a serious note, the loss of Eben Etzebeth early on also flattened us a little bit. We didn't anticipate losing such a leader and an aggressive man, always attacking the gain line, cleaning the rucks. So I think that definitely influenced things in a way. And then on a lighter note, just coming back to the fly-off, I heard someone say that if you know how to Tokyo drift, then parallel parking shouldn't be a problem. So that's just for Moni Lebok and just the fun.
Never heard that one
I like
before,
that,
but I do
Roots.
like
I
it.
like
Yeah,
that,
good
Roots.
one, Roots. You picked your moment there, and you delivered. That was I appreciated that one. But just on the book, and I'm not hold. I know we've had our conversation, but look, I am a Le book man. You guys know this, and we can bang on about his kicking. But when that boy needs to kick 3 points in a big game, he's gonna put it over, right? I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. Let him do his razzmatazz and his no looks, and he's gonna kick backwards with his bum or something. Let him do it all, and we'll be fine. So he'll be fine. Let's back him.
I
So
mean, if you heard Sia Khaleesi's I mean, it was all over the
Press
internet
conference.
about how he defend Marnie. He makes a very good point. It's just like, he
mm,
does everything else in the game almost to perfection.
yeah, yeah,
And just because it's such a visceral thing, kicking, that you
yeah,
see quite clearly that it's quite a target on his back, unfortunately. But I
yeah.
think he needs to get the benefit of the doubt. Joe. He's really been playing fantastically
I,
well. He'll fix that. He'll fix it for sure.
I agree. He can kick.
Sure.
Yes, it's not the averages we want, right? Just sorry, Wes, did you want to say something?
No, no.
Oh, sorry, mate. Cool. Sorry. Yeah, guys, let's go onto the team. I would say we got some changes there. I think Roots, I'll start with you, mate. I don't know what you feel with we also quite very interesting with the scrum offs. Like everyone was like, why the hell do we have 4 scrum offs in the squad? Well, here we go, boys. I think maybe maybe the craziness has revealed itself. But Roots, I'll give you first stab at you. What is your first impressions of the squad and how they're going to go against Romania? Obviously, we are anticipating a very comfortable win, aren't you? But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, it's obviously a lot of changes. I think it's a squad rotation thing as well. I mean, it's not a normal thing to see 4 scrum offs in a starting 23, but I think the versatility of those scrum offs counts in our favor. So if things happen where we perhaps, I'm just for example saying we need to do a 7-1 split, where can those scrum offs fit in potentially on the wing like we see Grant Williams now? So what will also be interesting for me is to see which players from this match actually then stay behind and form part of the Ireland game. We think of a guy like Jean Klein with so much Irish experience. Will he factor in? Are these players just obviously rotating, as I mentioned? For me, South Africa are going to absolutely trample Romania. If I look at 1 to 23, there's experience, there's excitement. It's interesting, though, as I mentioned earlier, Damian Willemse at 10 with no Manie Lebok, who would then take over the kicking duties in the second half after Clerk. Do you then give him the opportunity in the Ireland game to actually take that away from Manie Lebok? And as Riza mentioned, let him do what he does absolutely best,
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick one. I mean, I think the bookies again are saying a 70-point win. Is this change team, considering Ireland with a full strength team beat them what by 70 odd, just under 80? So with 10 more points, you think this team goes past 70 points margin over Romania? This team we put out, or do you think that the combos are just too fresh and too unknown, and maybe it's going to be a bit closer than that? What do you think, Roots?
I think for me, the South African bomb squad again in the second half will be just too much for Romania. I think we've played them on one occasion, and I don't think they're going to enjoy the second time playing against us. It just wears off on you, like they mentioned. It's a slow poison, and I think there's still enough in the back line to be dynamic enough to score 10 tries at least.
Yeah, yeah. And Riza, any surprises? Yeah, I think we probably were absolutely expecting a change team, weren't we? I'm not so sure about some of the combos. I mean, obviously Reina holds
Um,
the dirt trackers together. Of course he does.
okay,
He
all
always
right.
has. He
Okay.
always has. Even and then
Yeah,
this and what
Chris.
and what do you think? I mean, well, Grant Williams is there on the wing, and I think that's a big reason why there were possibly were 4 scrum-halves, right? So what do you make of the team?
I actually think probably my biggest issue here is actually with the bench, perhaps. I'm reading there's 2 things that I'm reading into here. I see Kobus starting at Scrummy. I see Jaden on the bench. And maybe it tells us a lot, maybe it doesn't tell us a lot about which one of them's higher in the pecking order. And with Grant on the wing, it tells me nothing. I really don't know who is in the mind of the Springbok coaching staff as if they were to choose a a second scrummy to start, who's it going to be? And I mean, going off this, you would think that they're trying to give Cool this time in that role. And really, it's Jaden and Grant that probably need it most. But having said this, that's the one concern I have. I don't think there's anything wrong with what they've done, but it's they've obviously got a plan, and maybe we're just not privy to it. The other thing is obviously Damien at 10. I would have liked to have seen, I'm sure Rudes will agree with me, maybe even Wes, is that Marnie probably, I would have liked to have seen him still get some time here. I think that he's riding a very high run of form at the moment, and he is a confidence player. And maybe he would have liked the opportunity to have a second half, maybe 30 minutes off the bench, to just kind of slot, bang some kicks, express himself a little bit, and just kind of keep riding the form that he's in. So that's, if I was to be very picky about this, that's it. And Vincent Koch as well, with the start there. After seeing the Trevor Bongi Ox combination, I thought that maybe they would have liked to give them again a sense of continuity, and maybe Vincent off the bench for the second half. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I still think that we probably put over 60 on them.
Yeah. Whereas what obviously running on the back of those guys' comments, what do you feel? What do we make of Williams at 14? Because like you say, like would have made more sense. That I agree with Reese's comments there. Give Williams a run at 9, and even Hendricks could have got it. But what are you going to do with Hendricks and Faf on the bench? I'm very interested to see what they want to do. Do you have any ideas what these coaches are thinking? Wes, what do you think's going on here?
No, I mean, if you start to try and get into the mindset of a man who unfollows everyone on Twitter except for the one team they're going to play for that week, you can lose yourself in the weeds. Before I get wrecked in the comments, I know it's X, but whatever. So no, I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's exciting. I think it's unknown. I think these guys are innovators, and I think with that comes risk, and it might not work or it might come off. Like with the 7-1, we've seen how they've deployed that, and it's worked in our favor this time. And so it'll be very interesting to see with their choices. Like again, these decisions I don't think are sprung on the guys. They're not. The guys don't find out who's starting where when we do, obviously the public. So there will be conversations with the team and saying, hey, okay, why don't we do this? They've run these combinations in practice. They've tried these, and clearly they've seen something. They think, hey, this could potentially work here. And they're thinking combinations down the line. I mean, what if, touch wood, everyone find some wood right now and touch it, because what if Lebok does go down and is ruled out the rest of the World Cup, and Hollow's not there, blah, blah, blah. Like, what about all that? Then Willems is going to need to slot in at 10. So let's get him in there with as much time as possible. So, look, this is going to be my first Bok watch along. So I am super excited and
nice
very privileged to have this opportunity, which I can't wait to do. So I'm looking forward to.
No pressure. It's just 350,000 people.
Well, let them come, right? If you build it, they will come. Please come join us
exactly.
and watch the Boks dismantle Romania.
And Wes will bring the ladies, so it's up to 500 this weekend. Let's go, boy.
Stuff.
Yeah. No, but that's exciting, man. That's exciting for me. I'm looking forward for that for you, man. That's really, really going to be good. Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna do predictions, but while we're on the Boks, I mean, I think we all know the Boks are gonna win, right? Are we gonna do a round robin of predictions? Anyone fancy Romania on the weekend? Yeah.
Okay, that's just a waste of fan forum time, Chris. Really.
Yeah, but what margins are we going by? Because I think you guys brought up a good point about like, it was a full island strength team who got then about just 70 odd or just over 70. So what do we think for margins? Do we think, as you said, Chris, it was a good point, because this is a new combination, fresh combination side. Can we put 40, 50 plus, or will it be a bit scrappy and maybe a 20 plus game?
I think if you're looking at 40, 50 plus, just to jump in there, Chris, I think that is a scrappy game. I think that is a scrappy game. I think a good performance is 60 points plus. I think a scrappy game is 40 to 50 points.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you want to add anything there. I think 70 points is about right. I think maybe we'll be just short. I don't know. It'll be the second half, won't it? It's a lot about the second half with these minnow teams, with how much they got left to hang on, Rudes. But I know you said
I'm going with South Africa 77. That's 11 tries, but only 8 conversions. So the final score 71. Romania are going to get 1 consolation try, so 71-5.
All right.
So
Yeah.
you get that right, I'll buy you a bottle of whatever it is that you drink, buddy.
Well, that's actually what we
And then I say Romania to score a try. I think we're going to give them a try in the 80th minute just because we don't want them to Romania.
Oh, gee, Roots is so
Yes,
full
this
of it,
guy.
eh? So full of it this evening, eh? Nice, Roots. Yeah, well, actually, we'll say we want to talk on to country. It's what quite a big talking point of the weekend was the cards, right, and the decisions, and we've gone through this many times. I think we all agree that we want to protect the players and we should protect the players. So there's all these rules in to do that. We also don't always want to criticize the referees, but they brought in to man this, right? And they've been heavily criticized when they've had to make decisions on the field. So in brings the bunker system, and we think that's all going to sort it out. However, we've almost got 3 identical collisions and 3 completely different outcomes, guys. It is not, I don't think it's acceptable. I'm not going to put it on the refs because we are humans, but it's not working, right? I'll start with you, Reza. What are your thoughts on those collisions for one and the decisions that were made, and what do you think actually, where do we go from here? Do we have to just ride this out and hope it improves, or do we change? Do we have to simplify it? What do you think?
I do feel for the refs in this case quite a bit, because the card situation is actually quite ambiguous. The punishments, though, for cards that are, well, let's go first with play that is dangerous. That is the one reason for citation, and 2 is contact with the head, right? And so you can have a reckless play, and contact with the head is there after a aggravating factor. In fact, when you're looking at penalties over and above cards, because I don't want to go too much into the cards, I'll let one of the other boys do that. But those scenarios where they look into in post game, there's been no consistency at all. It says there that they should get, I think it's a minimum, a mid-level is a minimum 6 game ban. And we saw even before the World Cup started that simply just isn't happening. There's a whole bunch of reasons that they're offering up as, this is mitigation, and this is aggravation, and this is we're just keeping quiet on it. This is just the punishment we're giving out, and no one seems to know what the standard is that they're working off anymore. And I find myself very frustrated at what's going on. And you know what, if it had been consistent throughout, and even the Creel card, if it had been consistent throughout and he was given a card for it, I'd be sitting here going, yeah, no lacquer, shut 100%, we move on. But that isn't the case. And so you can understand other nations, when it goes against them, are rightfully up in arms at the moment.
Yeah, Wes, I'll move on to you because I know you wanted to comment the Creel. Let's talk about the Creel. I mean, I think, do you feel that what should have that outcome have been? What do you feel it should have been? I know it wasn't. It was obviously not even looked at. Do we even know if it's cited as well? But secondly, also, I mean, what do you feel? Because for me, how come us as the public can see it and go, okay, that's obvious. Why are we as non-professional referees not getting paid to make decisions? Seemingly can make the decision. What do you think is going on? It's the same for VR in football, right? You see some very dubious and weird contentious. So we just brought more human error. Let's add on some more human error, and let's be happy with 2 wrongs make a right. Like it's very odd. What do you think there, Wes? First with the Krill incident and all of it. What do you feel?
Yeah, it's a really tricky one, but I'm going to just try keep it as simple as I can. So we saw obviously Tom Curry with a sort of upright in the tackle, head-on-head contact, no real mitigation, got the yellow card, which I think is definitely the correct call, to the bunker for the review. And I think the ref made the right call there. Fine. And then you go to the TMOs, and again, they judged that there were no mitigation factors, and so that could be upgraded to a red. And I think it's a harsh call, but I think it's a strict or a reading of the laws, like as they are. This is what it is, and it's a red card. So I think you can't be too cross with that, because you can go, okay, I can see how they got there, so I get it. But then you had Martin Sigrin, the captain for the Chilean side, doing almost the exact same thing as Tom Curry, and got a yellow card. got reviewed. So cool, the ref did the right call there. But then it goes to the bunker system, and it's deemed that it's going to remain a yellow. So all of a sudden you're thinking, wait a second, how can that be? If you look at them side by side, I think it's almost the exact, like, identical tackle. So for public, I think what the players are after as well, what I think they're desperate for, is give us the reasons why. So you said there's no mitigation, but then why was this one? What's different? Show us the difference. It's like the office meme where Pam says, corporates asked us to pick out the two, spot the difference between these images, and there isn't one. It's like we need to know what's going on. And then Jesse Creel, again, the ref, I'm not going to blame the ref because there's so much going on in a game. They've missed it. But this comes to the TMO. I mean, we've seen, this is the most involved, I think, TMOs and VAR and bunkers and whatever's been involved. So how do you miss that? Is it the directors, the TV directors? Again, I don't know how it all works in the operation room, but surely someone saw it. Well, clearly someone did see it, because the ITV commentary team would not shut up about it. And again, rightly so, because if it was happening to us, we would be, I can tell you there, Nas Twitter would be absolutely fuming in the SuperSport studio. I mean, it would just be unbelievable. So again, it comes down to that. We just want consistency as players, as fans, as sportsmen and women. You want consistency. And what that breeds, I think, is actually then safer conduct. Because if players don't know what they can and can't do, then you have this sort of weird gray zone. So,
Yeah,
Well,
totally
I
agree.
mean, the one thing you can't do is have contact with the head. It's just about what is the correct punishment for differing severities of,
Sorry, I'm there with you, and I agree. I think if I was to look at all those situations, I think all of those are red cards. Looking at a strict interpretation of the rules, I think they're all red.
Yeah, I agree with where they are today, right? But let's say this whole head thing. But guys, you've got to remember, we play in rugby, right? We've all played the game. Head contacts happens in every single game, no matter what, if it's intentional or not, it happens, right? I know so let's go to you, Root. So that's what I'm saying. Do you think the onus is much more on the players, because it is happening in every game? I mean, in a rugby high-speed collision, when you got split seconds to make a decision, and the head contact is going to happen no matter what. Is it still on the onus on the players, or is that the mitigation? We say maybe it is lowered, because we are seeing red cards for what for me is accidental head contact that you can't prevent. And also, like Safriki makes a point, and I was going to make it with you. Do you feel these refs need to be on loudspeakers on the stadiums, talking through the reasons and why they made a decision? So 2 questions there: how much of it is on the players to actually not have their head contact, and do you think that maybe refs actually being heard at the grounds, could that make a difference?
I think for me, the refs obviously have a tough job in as much as these sort of decisions. But in my opinion, it's like there's a sense of a frenzy or euphoria that's overcome the referees. They've been given a mandate, and all of a sudden they're making the decisions in that moment of frenzy, basically like from the worst possible scenario that they'll go to that first. So they'll go. I know they talk about mitigating factors, but if I look at a referee, to explain my point, I think it's Wayne Barnes from England. He's always of the notion that obviously contact that's deemed foul play, he'll start at the very bottom being a yellow card, and then at a point where it is a red, he'll make that decision. But I think for the moment, the mitigating factors are not really apparent to me. It's like frenzied decision based on moments where it's split seconds, where you have to decide you must now drop your angle and tackle, where the person who's attacking you's hip is much more likely to knock you out as well than your ability to perhaps stand up in the tackle. So sometimes I think the physical contact thing, we mustn't get away from the fundamentals of rugby and spoil it with these sort of nuances in the laws, in my opinion.
Yeah,
if I sorry,
yeah, I think we've also
go guys.
Sorry,
okay, you go first.
If I could just very quickly, I think that it's a bit of an aside to the card thing. It's just that the experiment that was had with the 20-minute red card rule and then replaced with another player, was one that was quite interesting to me, because I feel like that takes pressure off a referee to make that red card. If they suspect it's within the definition of the rules, give the red card, because it doesn't totally ruin the game. It's 20 minutes off for that player, and then they're allowed to replace him afterwards with somebody else. I think that rule probably needs relooking at. I think that there's some tweaking perhaps that needs to be made there, but I think that it takes the pressure off the referee to make those hard calls, especially when they're unsure. If their first instinct is it's within the rules, I think it's a red card, then give the damn card and let's move on with the game. But yeah, that's something to add to the conversation.
Add on that, Reza, it's like we want to see, or I would like to see, a scenario where the World Cup, there are more yellow cards. We don't want to see any red cards for that matter. And perhaps a scenario where if you build up 1 or 2 yellow cards, you suspend it for the next game. We're losing the basics of it by bringing in the red card bunker system, etc. I think it's complicating a scenario that could be quite simple. So in other words, let's just see more yellow and less red.
Your ways, I think you wanted to also chime in some last comment
yeah,
there.
I mean, we could be here, and talk about this for about an hour by itself. But I think 2 things, and then I promise I won't say anything more about it. But I think one, I agree with you guys in terms of, and it was brought up in the comments as well on one of the watch-alongs this weekend. I don't agree with watching things in slow motion all the time. So I think you should use slow motion to identify where contact was made. So you use slow-mo to see, okay, there is contact on the head. Cool. So we've got a head contact. Or if you're not sure, it's kind of like when in cricket, when the ball goes past the bat and it's kind of close, it's like, right, can we get ultra edge just to see? So you use slow motion just to see, okay, was there where contact was made? Then I think when referees and the TMO in the bunker or whatever they are, they then need to watch the incident in real time. Not slowed down, because there's contact with the head. So you need to watch it at the time that the player had to adjust to the decision. And I think that will give them a more realistic understanding then of, could the player realistically get out of position? I will just say, though, for Creel, Curry, and Sigrin, they were all bad tackles. They were all in the wrong position. They were never going to make effective tackles. They were all upright, high. That's a bad tackle. I don't know about you, Oaks. We say we've all played rugby. I was never taught to tackle like that. They were all upright. Like it's just yeah.
But have you never gone into we've all at some point gone into guys a little bit shorter. The games we've all gone in high at some point, not deliberately. At some point, the angles of the tackle, what's happening. I'm not, what I mean. For me, my last shot, I just feel those type of incidents are at the moment, yes, red by letter of the law. Now all 3 were red. However, for me, some of these incidences are too strict. These rules are too strict for the incident. I think we need to strip it back a little bit. Some of those things are not red card offences. In a game of rugby, that's not a red card offence. But we are where we are. So that's my last.
But if you talk about no, so I was going to add 2 and
go.
I already said 1. But I was going to talk about then if you say in the game of rugby. Because at the end of the day, and I know we hate saying this, but it is a game, and people's lives need to carry on after rugby. And there's a real issue with CTE and head collision and concussion and brain damage. Like, that's just it. And so if we want people to continue playing rugby, and there's a massive fallout in the US of what's going on with football, American football, like, yes, parents are not wanting to put their kids into American football because of the CTE. So that sport, might crumble, might not crumble, but what we want to see is rugby preserved. And for me, the core of rugby is not making head contact. I know that's not what you're saying. The biggest tackles I've seen ever made in rugby have been good, low, strong, hard, positive tackles where the head's not even anywhere near the other person's head. So I'm all for the physicality in rugby.
Okay.
I'm 100% there with you, but but I do think, sorry.
I agree. So I think with the games, because this is kind of shifted in the last 5 years. So in saying that, I agree. So I'm totally agree. If this embeds all players to be going low all the time, like it becomes this normal habit. But then I guess that's maybe where I'm missing the point. I'm going to see a different game of rugby, not the game of rugby I knew and watched and knew. And it's going to be a different-ish game, right? It's going to be more aerobic. What's the word they call it? So are we prepared to see say goodbye to the game of rugby almost as we prepare, because you are changing the rules that much for the good of the person, maybe not the good of the game.
But the
Maybe
rules have
rugby,
changed. We 50-22, kicking it directly out into touch, line out, scrum, hold set.
yeah,
Rules have
but
changed.
yeah, but
Chris, I've
that's
never
I'm
looked at a
talking about
game of
tackles.
rugby where there hasn't. I've never looked at a game where there hasn't been a high tackle and gone, "Geez, that was a pretty soft game." Like that's never crossed my mind once. Like rugby, when it's done properly, is still hard. It is still aggressive, and physical, and all of the above. And yeah, I think if this is the approach you want to take, then I'll send you the Owen Farrell highlight clip again, and you can
No,
have some
I'm not.
dreams about that.
I'm not saying it. I'm saying it's a high-paced physical game. You're not going to get it out. I'm sorry. But you guys might think if you want that, that's fine. There are going to be head contacts every single game, no matter if it's deliberate or not. Whether the guy's trying to go low or not, it's going to happen. I promise you that. So every game you're gonna watch the rest of your life, you'll see a head contact somewhere. So that's all I'm saying. And I'm just saying that
handballs happen
the
in
rules.
football. Handballs happen in football in the penalty box. It's a card or whatever the case is, a penalty. So that's it, right? So that's against the rules, and if that happens, then there you go. Anyway,
I know, but yeah, but we need to protect the players, and I totally agree. I just said just get them set up, but no, I was because I was going to talk about headgear, right? But you're right. Go to even NFL. These guys have state of the art helmets, and these guys, but they get, I mean, okay, they get properly slammed to the ground.
Yeah.
So like, but I mean, you talking about this might be you guys, maybe people getting upset. What I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to say we should go headbutt each other every game and get dementia. I'm just saying maybe there needs to be laws that everyone needs to wear proper state of the headgear. It's available, so why aren't rugby players putting on headgear if they can use it? Why would they?
No,
Anyway,
because headgear has been proven to just be. It's actually actually makes American footballers go in with worse tackles because they've got their headgear on, and it's been shown to not be a deterrent to terrible tackling technique. It's actually one of the worst things for it.
Yeah. Bruce, do you want to say something? Add one more last. This has gone on 50 minutes. We thought it might do. I should have started it earlier. But yeah. Bruce, you got anything else to add before we go into some quick fire predictions before we end the show?
I'm good, my brother. You fire ahead.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let's go to. Yeah, we've gone a little bit over. I apologize, guys, but I hope you guys enjoyed that.
It's World Cup. It's okay.
Yeah. So we'll do predictions. Yeah, we'll all have a go. I think there's 8 games, so we'll all have a stab at 2. I will go first as the host because I'm allowed to make that decision. So, there we go. France by 50, New Zealand by 60. There we go. Easy. And then we'll go around the table as we go with Rude's first. Rude will take you to the next games, and that will be Samoa versus Chile and Wales versus Portugal. What's your Samoa-Chile prediction?
Samoa 38-12 against Chile, and then obviously, what's the other game? Portugal?
Wales, Portugal.
Sorry, Wales by 50 at least. So 53-3.
Wales by 50. Okay, the bookies have got them 30. So you're thinking they got that very wrong. Then it's a heavy Wales victory. Yeah, I also think Wales should be putting them by 50 as well. Wes, we'll move on to you. Wes, we've got Ireland, Tonga. How do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, we know the Tongans love the World Cup, and I remember when we played them last in the World Cup pool game. So, I think the Irish do come out on top. Obviously, I'm going to say Ireland by about 20 points. So, yeah, I'd say Ireland by 20.
Yeah, the bookies got there by 30. So, it just shows you how it's these games that we not used to seeing, how it's hard to kind of match them, right? Even though we know it's going to be a dominant wins, but by how much,
Yeah, exactly.
And then, we've got you in the South African game. You did give it earlier. But what's the margin in the South African game?
Yeah, I was
buddy, commit.
torn. I know. You boys are saying big margins, but I do think like maybe potentially some of the combinations could be new. But I think if you just look at how star-studded the backline is and the power of the forwards, so I'm going to say South Africa by 65.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leaning as well. Yeah. And Reza will put you on probably the best, they're leaving the best games for last for us this weekend, really teasing us this weekend, even though they are big games, but they are going to be quite interesting to watch. Australia, Fiji. How do you see that one?
Oh, man, you've given me, sure. I'll tell you what, I want to go with Fiji. But I think that Australia probably takes some heart from that first win. and I think Fiji will be quite demoralized. So I'm going to go Aussies by 10.
Yeah, I like that. Also agree. I think Aussies will just be too much. I think they've grown. They would have taken out of that Georgia win, and I still think that the higher if you want to call them tier one, because I think Fiji might still even be above Australia. I haven't seen the last rankings, but I still think when it comes down to the crunch, at everything equal, these teams at this level, the better the team wins, right? And then England, Japan is as I say, it's 22 points. I'm calling in England 10-15. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I actually think I'm going to go with an England by 20.
Ooh, close to the. Yeah, you think you build on that win against Orange? You saw enough there.
Yeah, I'm actually. It's more about the Japanese at this point. I think that they aren't actually playing the rugby that they should be at the moment. So yeah, I think it's more down to their performance.
Yeah, fair enough. It could be. We get on the bet. Yeah, I'm just gonna say I think it should be 15. So I'm taking the points there on the betting angle. But yeah, I agree with you there. I see some of the comments, guys. Yeah, Josh and Mario, they want us to talk about Marcus' injury. We didn't. I hadn't. I'll be honest. I have been busy all day. I hadn't picked up on that. Just before we end off, does anyone want to comment on it? How is he injured? What's going on there, guys? Because I don't know. So fill me in there as well. What's going on there?
We don't know, right? That's the issue. He's kind of gone off for scans and stuff for an undisclosed injury, so it's all being kept a bit hushed at the moment. Which is
I think the last headline I saw was that apparently it's being touted as minor, but what minor means, in the context of a World Cup is a minor could be 2 weeks out for something, so, and that's quite a lot. But yeah, look, I mean, keep. I'm sure Stevie P, he's going to keep us updated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just keep following the channel, guys. You'll see it here as soon as we know anything. Yeah.
Just quickly, I'm interested. What did this happen in the game? I didn't see it. And what is the injury? Do we know what parts of the body? Do we not know anything at this stage?
I think it's something a knee, I believe. I think it's a suspected ACL something.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Brings us to the end. Now we're looking forward to another weekend of no matter who's playing. We love it. We always will. And yeah, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Guys, please join into the boys. Stevie P will be in France. So exciting for them and for the channel. Loads of stuff going on around the channel. Give Wes support
France, Uruguay tomorrow night.
France. Are you on? Or who's doing the watch along tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm on Rudy's doing France, Uruguay.
Join Rudes on the watch along tomorrow, and obviously across the channel there will be fan cams and pre-shows and gifts for the boys.
Don't forget to make your predictions and your Super Brew and fantasy. Do all those things.
And thanks to BOYLESPORTS, our sponsors, to get on board with us for this journey. If you fancy signing up, get a sign-up bonus with the link in the channel as well. But thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. And yeah, guys, we'll see you all soon. Cheers.
Thanks, Chrissy. Appreciate it. Cheers, guys.